She sued me for child support, swore I was the deadbeat dad. Then the DNA results dropped and the courtroom went silent. That's when I realized. She didn't just lie, she planned it all. I met Emily in the kind of storybook setting people dream about, my best friend Michael's vineyard wedding in Napa, 2016. I was the best man. She was a bridesmaid. It sounds cliché, but in that moment it felt like fate. I was 34, stable, grounded, working as an IT consultant for a healthcare company, restoring an old '67 Mustang with my dad on weekends, and just bought my first home. Life had a rhythm. Emily stepped in like a spark, funny, sharp, stunning. She said she was a social media manager for a tech startup that, in her words, would change how pet lovers connect. Looking back, she sold that job like she was pitching to investors. Turns out, it was 3 guys in a WeWork burning venture capital. Still, I saw potential in her. When the startup failed, I offered her a place to stay, just until she figured things out. Her tears felt real, her ambition seemed genuine. I didn't see the beginning of a storm. I saw someone who just needed a little support. My first big mistake? Thinking love alone would be enough. Classic mistake number 1, folks. Thinking love can fix financial recklessness. Looking back, there were so many red flags with Emily that I practically lived in a crimson-colored apartment. But when you're in love, you don't see warning signs. You see potential. Emily came from an upper-middle-class background where her dad paid for everything: school, car, rent, and even her vacation. When he cut her off at 25, apparently even he had limits, Emily drifted between startups and influencer gigs, never holding anything long enough to call it a career. But she had charm. Oh, she could sell a dream better than any marketer I'd ever met. When she moved in with me, she said she wanted to start a social media consulting business. I bought it. She made PowerPoint decks. Talked about networking with clients. It felt real. Meanwhile, I was footing every bill and watching my credit card balances balloon like a bad economy. Her so-called business expenses were a $2,000 0-cents MacBook Pro, a $500 0-cents ring light, and a $1,000 0-cents wardrobe, none of which brought in a single client. When I brought it up, she flipped the script. I wasn't supporting her dreams, and stupidly, I backed off. By 2018, we were married. She insisted on holding the wedding at the same Napa vineyard where we met, calling it our story. Her parents didn't contribute a dime. I drained my savings for it. It was a beautiful day. My dad, Robert, took me aside at the reception and asked one question. Did you get a prenup? Thank God I had. My lawyer buddy Michael had insisted. My dad nodded but looked wary. He said, "Son, someone who loves you doesn't need your credit card to prove it." If only I'd listened more closely. After the wedding, Emily stopped even pretending to care about money. It was like the ring gave her unlimited access to my bank account. I got a promotion shortly after, $150,000 0-cents a year now, and that became her green light to quit her part-time gig. No warning, she just said, "I'm finally free to pursue my dreams." Translation: turn our office into a content creation studio. $5,000 gone for cameras, lights, and a hideous pink velvet couch for her Instagram aesthetic. The roof we needed? On hold. Her defense? "But babe, don't you want me to work in an inspiring space?" She launched a YouTube channel about luxury lifestyle on a budget. The irony. She'd buy designer stuff with my card, shoot the video, and return most of it. Emphasis on most. The rest stayed. I once found a $900 0-cents pair of Louis Vuitton heels. Her response? Props. Meanwhile, my Mustang, the car my dad and I had spent 5 years restoring, was suddenly in the way. She wanted the garage for her yoga space. One day I came home to find she'd listed my car on Facebook Marketplace. Her reasoning? "You spend too much time on that old car. Don't you want to support my wellness journey?" We fought. I yelled. She cried. Then guilt tripped me. If you really loved me, I caved. But she kept sabotaging the car, leaving the garage open in the rain, bumping it with her boxes. When she scratched the paint, I gave up, sold it. The look in my dad's eyes when I told him I'd let him down. What did she spend the money on? A business retreat in Bali. Came back with oils, meditation cushions, and a new plan: wellness coaching. She had business cards printed. Emily Mitchell, holistic wellness expert. Clients? 0. Inventory? $15,000, 0 cents, in expired skincare cluttering the garage. She blamed me for not promoting her to my coworkers' wives. I was drowning, working 60 hours a week, coming home to $200 0 cents DoorDash bills because she was too stressed to cook. Our house was a mess. Her channel had 342 subscribers, and I still wasn't allowed to follow her accounts because it would mess with her analytics. The final straw? She took a $30,000 0 cents loan against my $401,000 card without telling me. She guessed my password, my car's name and model year, and blew it all on a mentorship program led by some Instagram guru. I moved into my office, told co-workers I was testing remote work. Truth, I was too ashamed to admit my life was unraveling. Michael was the first person I called. At 2 a.m., he didn't gloat, just said, "Send me your calendar, we talk tomorrow." The next day it got worse. Emily opened 3 new credit cards in my name, racked up $47,000. Her explanation? Retail therapy helps her anxiety. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was over. The prenup had a clause about financial misconduct, thank you, Michael. My dad's advice hit home. She won't stop until she hits bottom or finds someone else. Right now, you're the easier target. Filing was easy. Telling her, not so much. I walked into the kitchen. She was filming a day in the life of a boss babe vlog. $300, 0 cents worth of groceries staged behind her, all on my card. Our fridge? Empty. I waited until she wrapped, then said, "Emily, I'm filing for divorce." She stared, then picked up her phone, hit record, and said, "Guys, I have to be real with you about something." I walked out before I became content for her My Truth series. Emily didn't go quietly. After our divorce, I thought I'd finally cut the cord and could start over. But she wasn't done. First came the emotional whiplash, love-bombing texts, fake apologies, even my old Mustang parts mysteriously found in the garage, paired with an idea to rebuild a new car together. When I didn't bite, she switched gears. Accusations of abuse, threats to ruin my career, public sob stories on Instagram about how she survived financial control in a toxic marriage. It was surreal. I had spreadsheets showing over $200,000, 0 cents spent supporting her projects. Her receipts? TikTok sob stories. Luckily, my friend Michael, the lawyer who insisted on the prenup, was still in my corner. When Emily's social media lawyer demanded alimony for her lost career, Michael calmly dropped screenshots of her influencer posts, claiming to be a full-time entrepreneur. She got barely anything in the settlement. I let her keep her ring light and the pink velvet couch. Worth it. I moved on. Promotion at work, back to the gym, started dating again. For the first time in years, life felt stable. Until I got the letter. A certified envelope from the county courthouse. Inside, a petition for child support and custody. According to the documents, I had a 1-year-old son named Ethan James Mitchell. Emily claimed I had abandoned him and owed $2,800, 0 cents a month. I stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. The child was born 9 months after our divorce. Emily claimed we'd hooked up post-divorce and that I was the father. I knew without a shred of doubt that was a lie. The birth certificate listed my name. I didn't even know that was possible without my consent. She had added me as the father without my knowledge. I called Michael immediately. He answered on the first ring. "Do nothing. Don't talk to her. Don't post anything. Be in my office tomorrow morning." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept rereading the petition, wondering what kind of mind makes up a child for money. Michael explained the nightmare. In our state, if I didn't contest paternity within 30 days, I could be declared the legal father by default. Emily timed this perfectly, filing after the court's holiday slowdown, but Michael found holes. According to the paperwork, the child was born in November 2021. Our divorce was finalized in March. Even if we'd reunited after, the dates didn't match. We searched her social media from a burner account. In May 2021, Emily was partying at a music festival, definitely not pregnant. We filed a motion demanding a DNA test and challenging the birth certificate. Michael also hired a PI. A few thousand more in debt, but worth it. The PI discovered a man named James Anderson had been paying Emily child support under the table. He'd stopped around October. In December, she filed against me. Emily had also built a social media brand as a single mom, posting crying videos about being abandoned. Her followers sent support and cash. One of her TikToks even revealed a letter addressed to James Anderson. We tracked him down. James was another victim. We met at a coffee shop. He looked tired, angry, and deeply confused. He said he and Emily started dating right after our divorce. By spring, she moved in. She faked an entire pregnancy using a silicone belly and scheduled fake doctor's visits. When she came back from a baby shower with a baby, James believed her. He paid for everything: rent, diapers, formula, a college fund. He thought he was a dad. But he grew suspicious. Ethan didn't look like either of them. Emily always had excuses. Then James's mom, a nurse, asked questions. The math didn't add up. When he finally insisted on a paternity test, Emily disappeared with Ethan and blocked him everywhere. He stopped paying. That's when she came after me. James still had messages from her about the pregnancy, fake doctor's notes, footage of her wearing and removing the fake belly. Then the PI found the biggest hole. Emily's sister, the one who supposedly hosted her out-of-state baby shower, had been living in Australia since 2020. No shower, no sister, no pregnancy. Emily had fabricated everything, again, but this time, she used a child. They say the truth always comes out in court, but no one ever tells you how messy, raw, and devastating that moment can be when it finally does. The morning of the hearing, the sky was a dull gray, like even the heavens weren't sure they wanted to witness what was about to unfold. I stood outside the courthouse clutching a coffee I couldn't bring myself to sip. My hands trembled not from the cold but from the memory of all the times Emily had twisted the truth so artfully, so convincingly, it left me doubting even my own reality. If she could spin a web this tangled for me, who else had she trapped inside it? Michael, my attorney, showed up just before the doors opened. He wore the same navy suit he always did, creased at the elbows, papers poking out the side of his briefcase like anxious children trying to escape. "Let her talk," he reminded me with a calm grin. "The more she says, the more she'll hang herself with her own lies." James was already inside. I caught a glimpse of him through the glass doors, sunken eyes, jittery hands. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days, and who could blame him? The thought that the child you fed, bathed, and loved might not even be yours? No courtroom prepares you for that. Then, Emily arrived. Barely recognized her. She was wearing oversized scrubs like she'd been on the night shift at a hospital she'd never worked for. Hair shoved into a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes not quite concealed by the act she wore like perfume. Innocent single mother just trying her best. Beside her was Ethan, the first time I saw him. Sweet-looking boy, big eyes. But he didn't look like her, not one bit. Which, under any other circumstance, wouldn't mean a thing, but here today it felt like a loud truth no one wanted to say out loud. Her attorney, TikTok famous, more influencer than legal counsel, looked like he was already regretting taking the case. He kept whispering urgently to her, phone in hand, sweat blooming at his collar. Word was, he'd just seen some of the evidence Michael planned to present. I couldn't blame him for panicking. He was about to find out that real courtrooms don't come with edit buttons and filters. The judge was a no-nonsense man who looked like he'd heard every sob story from every angle. When Emily's lawyer tried, again, to delay the DNA test, this time citing spiritual stress, the judge didn't even respond, just raised an eyebrow, a tiny tick that said, "You're out of tricks, son." Then Michael stood. He opened his folder like it was a final chapter, every page a dagger honed by months of investigation. "Your Honor," he began, voice steady, "before we proceed with the paternity test, we respectfully submit evidence indicating the child's birth certificate was fraudulently obtained." The judge blinked once. Continue. "There is no hospital in the state with any record of Ms. Mitchell delivering a child during the time in question," Michael said. "In fact, there's compelling evidence to suggest Ms. Mitchell never gave birth at all." You could feel the shift in the room. Even Emily's lawyer turned to look at her. But Michael wasn't done. He pulled out surveillance images, time-stamped and location-tagged. Emily wearing a prosthetic pregnancy belly in a hotel lobby. Emily in a different state, telling neighbors she was 8 months along with no bump in sight. "These images were recovered from Mr. Anderson's home security system," Michael added. "The timeline contradicts her claim of pregnancy." Emily tried to object. "That footage is out of context," she cried, her voice brittle. The judge didn't flinch. "Miss Mitchell," he said, his tone as cold as the marble under our feet, "unless you plan to explain how a fake pregnancy belly can be misinterpreted, I suggest you allow your counsel to proceed." Her lawyer looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Then came the text messages. Screenshots from Emily reaching out to several pregnant women online, asking if they'd consider private adoption. One woman even recalled meeting her at a cafe. She said she was just looking to help, the woman had written in her police report, but something about her felt off. It wasn't until Michael introduced Lauren that I felt the ground really shift. Lauren took the stand with shaky hands, a quiet, tired strength behind her eyes. She spoke of a hospital in a rural town. November 2021, a baby boy, postpartum depression. And Emily, who had entered her life under the guise of a social worker and gently, deceitfully, convinced her to sign over temporary guardianship. "I was just trying to get better," Lauren said, voice cracking. "She said she'd bring him back, that I'd be safe, that he would be safe." Emily, in response, scoffed. "Scoffed? That's not what happened. She begged me to take him. She was unstable. But the evidence said otherwise. False documents, a fake name, and then the kicker, Lauren had recognized Emily in a viral TikTok holding Ethan and talking about single motherhood. That's when she contacted the PI. The judge asked Emily directly, "Can you provide medical documentation of your pregnancy?" Emily stalled. Tears welled in her eyes. "Your Honor, it was a traumatic experience. I didn't—" "That's not what I asked," the judge interrupted. "Do you have any proof you delivered this child?" Silence. Then something broke. Gone was the soft-spoken single mom. What emerged was the woman I remembered from our worst nights, entitled, venomous, loud. "This is ridiculous," she hissed. "That home birth was legal. I don't need to prove anything." That's when Michael delivered the final blow. A police report from the small town's maternity ward, dated November 2021. Witnesses described a woman matching Emily's description, posing as a lactation consultant, lurking around new mothers. "Miss Mitchell," the judge said slowly, "are you aware that trafficking in minors is a federal offense?" The silence was deafening. Her lawyer stood. "Your Honor, I withdraw as counsel. I can no longer represent Miss Mitchell." And just like that, he left. Emily lunged toward Ethan, tried to flee, but the bailiff grabbed her. She was screaming, clawing, calling it all lies. But the damage was done. The mask had shattered. The truth stood bare in the fluorescent light of justice. And Ethan? Just a little boy in the corner, holding a toy truck, unaware that the adults in his life had turned the courtroom into a battleground. But maybe, just maybe, now he had a chance at something better. She was screaming when they led her out, screaming that she was misunderstood, that all she ever wanted was to give that boy a better life, that none of us knew what it felt like to want something so badly, so desperately, it consumed you. But the courtroom was done listening to her. The DNA results came back, less than a week later, expedited, urgent, as if the truth had been waiting long enough. Ethan was, without a shadow of doubt, Lauren's son. The silence that followed felt different this time. Not the kind that presses on your chest like dread, but the kind that comes after a storm. The kind that says, "Now, we begin to heal." Emily didn't just fake a pregnancy or lie to two men about being the father. She stole a child. She preyed on a vulnerable new mother in crisis and built an empire of lies around that stolen foundation. She milked sympathy, attention, and money from strangers online and from us, the people closest to her, until the whole thing collapsed under the weight of its own deception. The judge was livid. I've never seen a man that composed shake with that much anger. Emily was charged with fraud, identity theft, falsifying legal documents, and interference with custody. The list went on. She's now facing up to 20 years in prison. The case has been referred to the FBI, and rumor has it there might be more women out there, more victims, more lives she tried to twist for her own gain. James and I both got restraining orders. He was refunded every cent he gave her in so-called child support. Funny thing is, we're friends now. Two strangers, once manipulated by the same woman, now bonded by survival, and the strange peace that comes after clarity. We get together some weekends to tinker with my old Chevelle. Talk life, talk cars, talk about how far we've come since those nights we spent staring at the ceiling, wondering how we got fooled. Lauren. Strong, brave, quiet Lauren got Ethan back. She'd never stopped looking. She had gone through therapy, gotten well, and now works with a nonprofit that supports moms with postpartum depression. She sent us both a thank you note and promised Ethan would grow up knowing the truth, not just about how he came back to her, but how strangers stood up when it mattered most. And me? I finished restoring the Chevelle with my dad, Robert. It felt like closing a chapter I'd left half-written for years. My girlfriend Olivia, the one who helped organize evidence for court, rides shotgun sometimes. She listens when I talk about the engine, even asks questions. She's not pretending. She says the whole ordeal might just make the perfect personal statement for her law school application. I told her she already passed the hardest trial of all, living through this circus with grace. As for Emily, her online following vanished overnight. The girl boss image shattered. Drama channels swarmed. She tried to spin the story, of course, blame the system, play the victim, but the internet has a way of smelling lies from a mile away. Her last-ditch plea deal isn't going well, and the prosecution? They're not exactly feeling generous. Looking back now, I realize the lesson wasn't wrapped up in the court documents or even the relief of justice served. It was in something my father told me long before Emily ever entered my life. When someone shows you who they really are, he said, believe them. The first time. Emily showed me who she was years ago. In the lies, the manipulation, the hollow excuses, I just didn't want to see it. And in turning a blind eye, I let others get hurt too. If I'd trusted my instincts, maybe Lauren would have been spared. Maybe James would have slept easier at night. But that's the cruel grace of hindsight. Now the damage is behind us, the child is home, the guilty are unmasked, the people she tried to bury found their voices, and they rose. Karma doesn't always come when you want it, but when it does, it walks through the front door, dressed in court robes, and calls you by your full name. If this story stirred something in you, anger, heartbreak, maybe even hope, you're not alone. Stories like these remind us how important it is to speak up, trust our instincts, and protect the most vulnerable among us. If you've ever witnessed something like this or lived through it yourself, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your story matters, and this is a space where it's safe to share. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more true, powerful stories that pull back the curtain on family secrets, betrayal, and hard-earned justice. And if this video meant something to you, please like, share, and leave a comment below, because every voice added to these stories helps others feel less alone. Thank you for watching, and take care of your truth.